Just a quick warning for you guys, I'm not going to be spoiling the film. I will keep the story elements very basic, very simple. So if you're afraid of hearing something you don't want to hear about the film, don't be afraid. This is a super safe review, but there's going to be a lot of rambling, so you've been warned. Tenet is the latest Christopher Nolan action film, and it stars John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Elizabeth Debicki, and Kenneth Branagh. And Tenet was expected by everyone as the film that was going to bring back the cinematic experience, it was going to save cinema as we know it. And on that front, did it deliver? Yes and no. I'm going to go straight to the chase here. Tenet is a disappointment, which is not to say it's a bad film, at least from my point of view, but the discourse on this is already insane. There's very few people hailing this as a masterpiece, and sure, if they find it like that, that's fine, but I'm noticing more and more people being disappointed by this, which is very telling. This is not going to be the film you're expecting. What is Tenet about? I'm not going to tell you the story per se, but let's just say that you have a nameless protagonist, played by Washington, who finds himself in an intricate and convoluted plot about saving the world from evil Kenneth Branagh, and is aided by Robert Pattinson, and is trying to save Branagh's wife, which is played by Debicki, and there's just so much happening. And if I had to say the main complaint I have about the film is the writing itself. Christopher Nolan wants to make something really ambitious, and he achieves it more on a visual level than on a narrative one, because while the story itself presents some interesting themes that he's tackled before in his career, especially the manipulation of time and space, Jesus, the exposition in this is really, really bad. And I'm not one who is entirely against exposition, because, I mean, you kind of need it sometimes. It's especially for a mainstream film, and a mainstream filmmaker like Nolan, he has always relied on a lot of people spouting dialogue, except for Dunkirk. Everything else is just lots of talking. But at least it was always engaging in some way. Things were always moving forward. You liked the characters, you understood their motivations, you kind of got what was happening, and the exposition served to make some elements clearer. In this film it doesn't. In this film the characters are paper thin, they're very, very simple, there's little to no nuance, purposefully so even, I think, and you just get so many scenes, especially in the first 50 minutes, it's just John David Washington going from one room to the other, talking to someone different, who's explaining what's happening, what's going on, and what he has to do. And there comes a point, and honestly I'm not the only one who felt like this, unfortunately, there comes a point where you just cannot keep up with what's happening. And personally, at least, I wasn't complicated by the whole twist that the film has, the whole, like, everyone's like, what's Tenet about? Is it a time travel film? Is it... what's happening in this film? Once you actually understand what is happening halfway through, it just clicked for me. That's the moment where I really started enjoying the film, where I got really sucked into it, where I was finding a lot of excitement from the action, which, I mean, those are some of the best set pieces in Nolan's career. They're incredibly grounded. Don't go in expecting like the docking scene of Interstellar, or even one of the scenes or in the dreams from Inception, but those are really grounded, yet still fantastical and fantastic action sequences. Absolutely stellar stuff, and some groundbreaking blend of practical and visual effects. It's like, hats off to Nolan, it's impressive, thoroughly so. But everything in between, like keeping up with who everyone is, what their motivations are, it's really tough. And there's little to no time spent on actually developing the characters. The only one who gets a lot of character work is Elizabeth Debicki's character, who sadly isn't the most compelling one. And not because of the performance, because honestly everyone in the film does a pretty great job. I really dug the chemistry between Washington and Pattinson, they are really great together. Debicki does a fine job. Branagh was interesting. He plays the villain in a very overt villainous way, which I've always dug. I like that kind of performance, but it has been putting off a lot of people, so be careful about that. But everything else that was happening, like, I want to see Washington and Pattinson just talk shit in a room or whatever, or during a car ride exchanging some kind of dialogue. That's one of the things I really love about Tarantino's films. You have a lot of character interactions and character moments that were sorely lacking in this film. Nolan was more preoccupied with this script, getting to each fascinating and exciting set piece, having to explain everything that leads up to it and everything that happens in them afterwards, but he doesn't spend enough time developing those characters. So even though I was having a blast watching this, and for 2.5 hours it went by really quickly and I had an absolute joy watching it, I also cannot deny that this needed more character love. He doesn't love his characters here. And the actors do the best they can with the script. And during the more physical parts, they are great. Like, there's some stunts in here that Washington and Pattinson do that are just great work, truly great work. But that's not enough to make the film truly special. And which is unfortunate because, as I've said, the level of work that is put into creating this world and its mythology and the set pieces, it's insane. And I bet that if you actually went through this, like reading the script or watching the film with subtitles so that some statements stick into your mind for longer, I bet you will have explanations for everything, because I'm sure this is a tight script. And even talking with different people, like, I caught some parts that other people didn't catch on and vice versa. So it does make for an interesting discourse afterwards and arguing about what went on in the film. But it's also not that satisfying. You don't get that great ending that you crave for a film like this. And you're meant to be emotional in one last exchange between two characters. And you just go like, I would be crying if I actually knew who these people were. And that's a big shame. But that's enough about complaining, because as I've said, cinemas, we haven't been in them for months, so being back there and having a Nolan spectacle on screen was just a great trip to the movies, to be honest. The set pieces, they're few and far between, but when they happen, they're absolutely memorable. This is the definition of something original. You have never seen action scenes like this before. And he pulls off something that many filmmakers have wanted to do and have tried to attempt to do, and he knocked it out of the park. Absolutely. On that front, I have zero qualms, zero complaints. And the level of the sound design, terrific, just incredibly loud. All the gunshots, all the explosions, they just ring in your ears. And you also have Gorgonson's score that's just making the earth shake while watching it. I left the movie with a bit of a headache, more because of the audio than anything narratively speaking. But boy, like, that's why you go to the movies, to have big, loud spectacle on screen that just engrosses you. And overall, I would say Tenet is well worth watching. You might love it, you might not like it, but at least it's something original. It's something original with a budget. Made by someone with passion. He was probably overly ambitious with this one. He needed to care less about the plot and more about the characters. That definitely would have helped. But he still crafted something that you've never seen before that can be very exciting. And in a time when we're all starving for quality cinema content, I think this delivers. It's not Nolan's best. I would put it honestly between Insomnia and Interstellar, which might be controversial for some, I don't know. It's one of his lesser films, but I definitely want to rewatch it again in the cinemas, just to not only experience the whole action scenes again, but just to see if the plot itself actually makes sense and is pretty good, or just to confirm that actually it's a bit of a letdown. And that's perfectly fine. Don't go in hating people for not loving this, but neither be complete like, oh, this is just a shit film. It's not a shit film, but neither is it a masterpiece of cinema. Like I've said in my most recent video, some people are gonna overrate this film and others are going to overhate it. It's fine. It's a fine blockbuster. It entertains, it excites, but sadly has no true lasting impact. But still, guys, have you watched Tenet and what did you think about it? Tell me in the comments below. Thanks for watching, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.